Hello again, rail fans, and welcome to Dalton, Georgia, for a special weekend of rail fanning with a special friend of mine. We would be starting out on Friday night, going until Sunday afternoon. Before our first train would be NS 215, calling signals north of town. My special friend of mine being Codaviner, which some of you may know. My video is more of a rail fanning type of video because I'm up here so much. But his video is going to be a documentary type of video because he's never been up here. So if you want to go see that, go over to his channel. About another hour would pass until we get another high green on the NS overhead signal on track 1. The train would be NS 373 rounding the corner at a slow speed, with one of the best locomotives last ups of the trip. Only being out for about an hour and already seeing one of the best lash ups of the trip with the NS 6920 unit, which was the honoring our veterans, and a UPES 44. While the last few cars were passing on 373, a CSX headlight popped around the corner, but it came to a stop. But once the last cars on 373 crossed the diamond, the CSX train got a high green from a dispatcher to cross the diamond. The train was A704 coming out of the Transflow facility just south of town, with the SD40-3 liter number 4052 and an ES40 DC trailing, with a great K5LA echoing off to the distance, and the engineer giving some push to his throttle.
Yeah, I think this is an SD40.
Oh, he's got cars. This would be the last train for Friday night, but we would be out bright and early Saturday morning. Saturday morning, November 13th, 2021, we got a southbound NS train lined across the diamond on the ATCS monitor, which turned out to be a southbound grain train. Hard thing about these trains is you never really know their train number, so no train number on this guy. don't know if you guys can notice, but down the line a little bit, you can see the tops of auto racks coming around the corner on the Dalton siding, which turned out to be NS 188. Right after the grain train left, dispatcher gave 188 the clear signal out of the siding. As 188 tiptoed out of the siding, we thought there wouldn't be any more NS trains for a while, but oh boy, we were wrong. He must have pulled off in the next siding north because, about 20 minutes later, NS 734 rounded the corner, loaded coal out of the Powder River Basin in Wyoming, headed for Juliet, Georgia to plant Shearer, with some BNSF power at the head like normal. These trains run at least 2 to 3 times a day, so this would not be the only BNSF coal train we would see. What'd I tell you? That wouldn't be the only coal train we see. 734 pulled off at Phelps Siding to meet 733 coming out of Plant Shearer, heading back for the Powder River Basin in Wyoming, with another GEVO at the head. Something that doesn't happen too often on these coal trains is having 2 mid-DPUs instead of 2 NDPUs. I've never seen this before. Our last train before heading south for the day would be NS65Q, empty ethanol coming out for the Florida East Coast Railway in Jacksonville, Florida, heading for Chicago, Illinois. I've never seen this train before, so it was a cool catch for me. After 65Q passed, we would start heading south on the W&A. The only problem was we didn't know when the next train would come because the line had been quiet all day. So we made a quick stop in Resaca and then made it down to Calhoun, where finally a southbound train lights up our scanners. At 3:02 p.m., the crossings activate for southbound loaded coal train in 305. Black Diamonds heading for Georgia Power's Plant Bowen and Cartersville around the Stylesboro area, coming out of Evansville, Indiana. This train had no problems going through town. He was making a swift run for the last miles until he reaches Cartersville. Me and Dakota were making future plans for this coal train, seeing it in other places before it reaches Cartersville and even possibly chasing it to the plant. But oh boy, that would change in about another 10 miles. And here's the reason why our plans changed. N305 had just beat us to Adairsville, but once we went down to the north end of Martin Marietta, there was a northbound coal train in the siding. So we went back up to downtown to get the shot of him. The sun was backlit looking the other way, so I kept my camera this way, and in my opinion, it came out as a good shot. The coal train in question was E319, coming out of Cross, South Carolina, heading for Evansville, Indiana, and he was already going pretty fast once he got here. It's always nice to see two 1990s era AC 4400s leading a coal train, and with no mid DPU it made it even better. But obviously there would be no mid DPU because it's an empty coal train. While we were driving further south, we noticed that Q581 had passed through Dalton at around 4 o'clock, so we tried to find a spot and we found this one, so we waited it out for the train, and at 4:48 p.m., Q581's headlights round the corner. Me and Dakota both agreed at this time that the lead engine's horn was the worst horn of the trip. It was now nightfall, and Q648 was coming across the Etowah River. We thought it was Q648. We went over to the Altoona Pass, and if you want to go see some of that battlefield stuff, go over to Dakota's video. That little 34-second clip was from Dakota's camera. The reason why I didn't film it was because my camera wasn't cooperating with the darkness. But we would see the train anyways again in Adairsville. We beat it up here by about 3 minutes. And let me tell you, that wind that was coming off the train was freezing. The small town of Adairsville would not be woken up by Q648, but rather Q514, not a normal visitor to the WNA. He usually runs through Birmingham, but either crew preference or just not running the train that way on this night made him come through here. Pretty cool catch. I've never seen this train before over on the WNA. As Q514's blinking EOT rolls off into the distance, we would head back towards Dalton. After getting some food in town, we'd head back to the platform at around 9:30 to come back to our first NS train since mid-afternoon, which was another grain train, which I don't know the train number of, but it had a good leader at the front, which was a SD70 Ace. Give it another 30 minutes, and now we've got a southbound CSX line across the diamond. The train's M319, loaded coal out of Evansville, Indiana, for Cross, South Carolina. This is the sister train of E319 we saw a few hours back in Adairsville. The funny thing is, it's another coal train on the WNA. This is the third one now, I think. Love the sounds of distant train horns, eh?
Sorry. I forgot already.
And here's our train, southbound NS Intermodal 264. This train always has a nice surprise for us rail fans, almost always having BNSF power, as this train comes from San Bernardino, California, and tonight was no exception, with a Heritage 2 Gevo at the head. I didn't even know he was going by because I was over the locomotives and I didn't even see it until Dakota told me. Our next train would be another NS train, another NS 215. The same 215 that we saw from the night prior, just the next day's 215. At 11:23 p.m., the crossings would activate for our last train of the night, NS 229, hotshot piggyback and double stack intermodal out of Chicago, Illinois, bound for Jacksonville, Florida for the FEC. This would mark the end of our night too, with flashing lights of 229 DOT going off into the distance. Even though tomorrow wouldn't be as much active, it would still be a lot of fun. And here we are, day number 3, November 14th, 2021. We would head back to Dalton for a few hours, but not for long, because if you remember, on Saturday, we headed south, so that means today, we're heading north. And for our first train, it would be another NS 734, but instead of a Gevo at the head, it's 2 SD70 Aces. The train in Dalton's siding was NS373. He didn't move the whole time we were here because he had some sort of problem. And here would be our last train before we would head north out of Dalton. It was NS223, auto rack / intermodal out of Kansas City, Missouri, heading for East Point, Georgia. And here would be our next spot. Unfortunately, this would be my last stop for the trip, Coffey's Cliff. If you want to go see some more W&A history, go over to Dakota's video on his channel. We went through Tunnel Hill and Ringgold, and to where the Great Locomotive Chase ended. Here at Coffey's Cliff, the closest track is the CSX W&A main line, the second track is NS's main line, and all the other tracks are NS's yard leads. NS's DeButts yard is a hump yard, which is shown in the picture here. You can't see the hump because it's about 2 to 3 miles to our left. And the CSX track continues on through Chattanooga to their Wauhatchie yard, where the W&A ends and becomes a Chattanooga subdivision. The yard was very busy on this day, with many mixed freights leaving and entering the yard. Right at this time, there were 2 mixed freights leaving the yard and a yard job preparing to back into one of his tracks in the yard. And here's that yard job backing into the yard. The cool thing about yard jobs these days is that there's no engineer or conductor in the locomotive. It's all remotely controlled.
Well, that cleared out pretty quick, didn't it? Consider we had like...
And here was the highlight of the whole trip. A few minutes after we arrived at Coffey's Cliff, we noticed the NS safety train was in one of their yard tracks, and then about 20 minutes later, their Jeep 38 number 5642 comes out of one of the yard tracks, hooks up to the cars, and then gets a signal to leave. Were we about to see this thing? Yes, we were. This is the only time I've seen this thing, and probably the last time I'll see this thing, because I don't know when he'll run next time. But I know he's going to Atlanta, so maybe. As the safety train departs the yard, we have another mixed freight doubling out to make his train to head north. And you can probably notice it, but we got a high green at the north end of the boy siding of the WNA, some southbound. As CS6 loaded coal train in 302 passes, this is just about how my trip would come to an end. A huge thanks to Dakota, his parents, my mom, and my grandpa, aka Spaceship Gramps, for making this an amazing weekend. It's not always that we get to see each other, but I hope to meet up again soon rather than later. But anyways, I'll leave the rest of the narrating out. And until we meet up again next time, this is Georgia Rail Productions saying so long from Coffee's Cliff in Chattanooga, Tennessee.